Hey, I sent you an invite for the speaker. Hey, Eddie, welcome to the stage. I hope you can hear me. Okay, sounds like a green check from your side. Seeing the thumbs up.
Yeah, all is good. I'm just switching to my headphones, so hopefully I can still hear you in a second.
Okay, let's just wait for that until people join in the space.
All working from my end, so ready when you are. Great to see people joining already. Hi, Aridam, how you doing? And obviously, great to see lots of other people joining as well.
So like before, we start with anything, I have two things off my agenda that I want to do. So first of all, congratulations on, the rebrand. It's finally done. Right. Congratulations on that. And yes, I found all the Easter eggs in that. And yeah, happy belated birthday because this is like the first time we are meeting on a voice event.
Thank you so much. It's been an epic day. Lots of great help from everybody to do the whole rebrand from Linkfree to BioDrop. Super excited about that. We did just find a bug as well. Krish, I would have thought you would have found it, but I know you've had a busy day today, so we'll let you off now. Let you off this time. And thank you for the birthday wishes. Yeah, it's been great to have a birthday recently as well. Thank you so much. How was your weekend going?
Yeah, I've been, having fun. Like me and Anmol were at a meetup, like just before this one. So yeah, we were at a meetup just before the space.
I think I saw the photos on Twitter. It looked great. It looked like a really good event. So that's awesome. It was a great photo.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, anyways, let's begin without any further ado. So I just have, like an introduction of Eddie that I have, right? So Eddie is a GitHub star, being the GitHub star of the year, right? Eddie uses Git and GitHub a lot, of course. It's obvious. Eddie is the founder of EddieHub, and BioDrop, or should I call it Linktree? I'm like confused, but let's just say founder of both BioDrop and Linktree. And Eddie does a lot of open source stuff. So today we've got Eddie with us to discuss about collaborating during hackathons using Git and GitHub. I'm sorry, GitHub wasn't fitting into the title. Twitter has a limit. So yeah, is this introduction like the perfect one, or have you added new things to the list while I was a little inactive?
No, I think that's perfect. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Yeah, we're calling it BioDrop from now on. I need to get out of the habit of saying Linkfree as well. What else? A few other things have been happening while you've had your exams, but don't worry, we can cover those later if they come up in the conversation. And it's great to be here with you and with everyone else. I see Mikkel has joined as well, and Manish and some others too. So that's awesome. Yeah, I've done lots of hackathons over the years, and GitHub has definitely been a very important part, and Git as well. So collaboration is the most important thing, and those tools definitely do help.
Yeah, I could not agree more. And yeah, just to keep the audience feedback going to and fro. We received something that is like absolutely perfect. So Arindam from the audience just said that Eddie does not need any introduction, right? And this was like I should have said this first, but I was like, this is we should keep the introduction because that is also important, right? People should know about all the cool things that Eddie is doing. But yeah, anyways, moving further ahead with the spaces topic. So it's about, so Hack the Mountains. I'm just going to give a brief about Hack the Mountains so it's easier to, have context with it. So Hack the Mountains is a 36-hour hybrid hackathon. As I like to say it, it is one of India's largest, hybrid hackathons, community hackathons, and a lot of people hack at this event. So, because of that, you need to be very productive, right, in your hackathon, because you are not the only hacker. There are other hackers as well. So, the more productive you are, the more code and collaboration you can do. Plus, if you are more productive, you are left out with much more time to go ahead and chill out and hang out with the people around there. So I believe that Git and GitHub is like the way to do it for most hackathons. Like, am I correct so far, Eddie?
Absolutely. Git started off as a version control tool, and that's what it focuses on. And GitHub started off as a tool or a platform to visualize that. But it has changed so much more. It has really become a place where we can all collaborate. I mean, there's so much more to it now. There is issue management, issue tracking, project boards, automation with GitHub Actions. I mean, there's just so many things, and it's really important to keep the team efficient. It's even if you're working by yourself at a hackathon, you need to use these tools because you never know when someone's going to, join your team and they want to, see what you've been up to, or you want your project to get discovered or understood by other people around the world. You said it's a hybrid of hackathon, so if people are remote, it's even more important to make sure that these tools are used to kind of document almost the adventure that the project and the people are going on, and context must be given, right? There's space for a title and a description, an issue and a pull request, and they really must be used. People who just use the title and don't fill in a description are missing such an opportunity to help others understand their project, get involved in their project, start their project. So that extra kind of 20% of effort just to write a description is super, super important. That's why we have these tools there and have those options. But we can dig more into that when as we discuss more about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've already got one speaker on the stage. You people are pretty fast at, requesting the mic. So we've got Tamil. Hey, Tamil.
Yeah, hi everyone. Hi, Krish, and yeah, how's everyone doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Drip out here. So how about you?
Yeah, doing fine. And just joined the space. I mean, it's an amazing topic, especially whenever doing collaborations and hackathons, and it's a super important topic to be honest. Judging by how the number of hackathons are really increasing post COVID, the offline stuff and also the hybrid stuff. So yeah, it's an amazing space, and I just joined in to give my 2 cents and also listen to all the amazing thoughts that you guys might share.
Yeah, thanks for hopping by, Tamil. Really appreciate, you coming over here and hope to hear a lot from you as well alongside Eddie about this topic. So I have, researched my little bit before hosting the space. So I found out, some of GitHub's things that help you go ahead and actually, build your hackathon project, right? So, like, GitHub starts first of all with Git. And there is one thing that people do a lot in hackathons, that is breaking things. I myself have like broken the entire infrastructures at like the very last moment, trying to make something better. So what do you suggest that Git and GitHub can do if you end up breaking things? Like, is there some way that Git and GitHub can help you go ahead and fix those? Okay, go ahead, Eddie, please.
Thank you. Absolutely. So Git versions the changes we make, and each time we kind of get something working, we should make sure we do a commit, and ideally in a branch, and then raise a pull request. and a pull request with those changes. And just for those of you who don't know what a pull request is, a pull request is just like an issue. It has a title and a description, but it has some project changes to it. I say project changes, I specifically don't say code, because it could be infrastructure changes, which it could be config, it could be documentation, it could be automated testing. So anything that's file changes in the project. And even if you merge that pull request yourself, I think it's important to get the people on the team to merge it, because that's not only review. And I know at hackathons we sometimes cut some corners because time is very, very limited. But if they can review it, even a quick review, they might spot something. But also they get that knowledge transfer about the project, which is really, really important. So they can kind of see what's going on, to say know if they're working on something, they can know if it's going to cause an issue, or is the work duplicating, or could there be some sort of issue when deployed. Again, to try and minimize the risk of something going wrong. But if something does go wrong, pull requests can be unmerged. Commits could be pulled out. One Git feature I really like is Git revert and then the hash number. I really, really don't like rewriting history. So when you make a mistake, and I say when, because it will happen, and that's the beauty of using Git and GitHub. We can easily fix these things. Don't rewrite history for multiple reasons. One, it could break the project for other people if you're not in your own branch and no one else is working. But also, it's more complication. It's hard for people to understand. If they're looking for the history, it's kind of there, then it's not. Whereas if you use Git revert, then the hash, what it does is does an extra commit to the project. That's the complete opposite. So if you added something on line 3, let's say, whatever it is, and you commit it and you made a pull request, it gets merged. If you do Git revert and the hash of that commit, and a hash is just basically a unique identifier of every commit, then a new commit will appear, which will just be the exact opposite of what you did in the previous in that commit, if that makes sense, with the hash number. And the beauty of that is it's easy to follow it. So I never rewrite history. I've probably done it twice in my entire kind of career. I really prefer to have an additional commit with the changes, because then if you ever want to put those changes back in, you can kind of revert, if that makes sense. You can keep doing undos. And so that's what I would recommend. And get someone to, again, go via a pull request, get someone to review it. I think that's really, really important, again, for that knowledge transfer, and also just check that everything's okay. They might spot something that you don't. So don't worry about making mistakes. It will happen. And like we say in Agile, fail fast. So you want to fail quickly, but not too quickly. Get someone to check it first.
Wow, that's some really great advice. And your thing has actually popped up a question about Git in my mind myself. So now I first I know the difference between Git revert that you just told. It's when you create a new hash and reverse the changes that you made in the previous hash. But I know what hard reset does. It simply removes your commits, just like reset, and it's forced. But then what is soft reset? This is a question that has this is completely new for me. So what is soft reset? Yeah, Eddie, this question's for you. Please go ahead.
So with a soft reset, what it will do is it can do two things. A lot of the Git commands are quite confusing because they can do multiple things. Checkout can do 3 or 4 different things, and same with reset as well. But to talk specifically about reset, you can unstage files, and what that means is, so let me take a step back. When you do a commit, with the commit command, again, there's different ways you can do this. So I'll just explain 2 ways. You can do git commit with a message, so -m and then double quotes, put your message in there, and then you can specify the files you want to commit. So readme, and then you put a space, and you specify another file. You could put docs folder, and then put star if you wanted. You can even put a dot, which means everything in the current directory and down. But say you only want to commit some of your files and you don't want to list them. Well, what you can do is you can either use VS Code or a tool, or you can use git add, and git add will either make Git aware of the file if it's not being tracked already, but it can also stage the file. And what that means is it's kind of almost ready to be committed. And we use staging when you have some changes you want to commit and some changes you don't. Say you've done a piece of work and then you realize you actually want to split it out into 2 commits. So you could stage the files. So when and then when you do the commit, like I said before, with git commit -m and then the message in double quotes, if you don't specify anything afterwards, it will then commit any stage files. The reason why I'm mentioning staging files is with git reset, it can do 2 things. It can undo the history if you add say like head and then tilde and a number, like how many commits you want to undo, tilde1, tilde2, tilde3, then it will undo those. Please never use this command. And the reason for, and if you don't specify like how many to undo, it will unstage. So if you had done a git add and you staged some files, you want to unstage something, you could use git reset and it will unstage the files. The difference between soft and hard, which is what your question, so I am getting to it a long way around, is soft will do whatever it needs to do. So the command that you're writing, with it rewriting history or undoing history or unstaging files, whatever it is, and it won't lose any of the changes. And with hard, it will discard the changes. But to be honest, I would only ever use it just to stage and unstage. I would never use it to rewrite history. I have done in the past and learned the hard way. So I'm hopefully going to save everyone a lot of pain. Use git revert. If you haven't pushed the commits, then you could use git reset, soft or hard, and how many commits you want to undo. But as soon as the changes have been pushed, I highly recommend anyone not to undo any of those and just use the revert. There's nothing wrong with having extra commits in your Git history of undoing things. And to be honest, it's just part of the story that the Git history is trying to tell. So yes, hopefully that explains it. But yes, the soft won't discard any changes. They will still be there in your working directory, either unstaged or untracked, depending on what the command done beforehand. And hard will discard the changes that the command is doing.
Okay, wow, that's a lot of information on Git. Thanks a lot. It's like a lot of information for me as well. I'm like making in notes live that git reset does this, git commit does that. But yeah, it's like confusing with all these commands. Like you mentioned, they have, all the like you just mentioned that git reset, it resets your files. It also, hard resets your history. And similarly, you mentioned that checkout can do like several different things. So how, like, would you suggest that somebody actually, go ahead in, where like, so there are clients for Git. Like there is the VS Code Git client, there is Git Kraken, there is of course GitHub Zone, GitHub Desktop, there is also Tower, right? So during hackathons, if somebody does not want to worry about all this Git mess and stuff, so which one is like which one do you use, and which one do you suggest for people to go ahead and use to be the most productive? Like this is probably like a very substantive question. So yeah, please go ahead, Eddie.
This is a great question. I really like this question for multiple reasons. When people go to hackathons, they depends what reason they're going for. If they're going to win, then they should probably just use whatever tool they're familiar with that helps them get whatever they're doing done. If they're going to learn, then I recommend they put themselves outside their comfort zone and they do some things a bit more challenging. So I don't think the command line on Git is needed to get a job or to be good at your job or to be successful. However, the great thing about the command line is you get to learn more about what the commands do, because when you're using a tool, it might say pull and it's running multiple commands underneath, or it's doing multiple things that you're unaware of. So if someone wants to learn how Git works, which I think is important to do so, not necessarily at a hackathon, but whenever they feel the time is right, then I should think they should get on the command line and should create a test repository and just play with things and break things and try again and just do it. But the command line doesn't have to be used for people to be successful. I think some people, the command line junkies get so hung up on, you have to use the command line to be the best developer. You don't. But it does help to understand what is going on. Like with the checkouts, for example, this is another great command that I use every day, git checkout. You can do it to switch branches, can do it to create new branches, can do it to revert files back to the default branch or any other branch for that matter. So for example, a lot of the time, pull requests, people commit their package lock file, but they haven't changed the package JSON file. And that's because they ran npm install instead of npm CI. But for them to undo that from their pull request so their pull request can get merged, people do some really tricky ways to do it, and it's like 10 steps, all the rest. The easiest way is just git checkout git checkout main hyphen and the file name, and that will just revert it back to what it was in the default branch, and then you can commit and push that straight to your branch, and then the pull request will show up and it can get merged. So one command can just fix that. But yes, you don't have to use the command line. I think that's really, really important. People can use whatever tool works for them.
Okay, so we got the same question in the chat as well. Like, I am also surprised. I have the same questions as the people. So yeah, thanks for asking this one. So emphasizing on this question that I asked with the help of another question that the smart audience is asking. So like Git is a great tool, right? But how would a beginner get used to command line if he just started using it during the hackathon? So this is basically the inverse of the question I asked. That instead of learning, instead of going with the Git client, how do you just go ahead and learn the Git CLI in a super rapid manner so that you can work with Git in a hackathon?
Let me see if I understood that question correctly. If you want to learn the CLI at a hackathon, then I would say just get on and use it. You really can't break anything. And if you're working with a team of people who are familiar with it, they can always help and answer questions. And the best way to learn is just to run the command and just do it, and try and understand what's going on. Just be careful with places like Stack Overflow. It's best to use the official documentation or people's blog posts. But yeah, I would say just get on and use it, and don't worry about making mistakes. Everything is fixable. So just try it, just do it. I mean, even today, even if you're not at a hackathon today, just create a Git repo locally. You can just do Git init, and then just start creating branches, start doing commits, start creating conflicts with yourself. Like change a file, make a branch, change the same line, and then switch back to the main branch, and then change that same line again and try and merge. You'll get a conflict. Just try and resolve it. Conflicts sound really, really scary until you've done it about 10 times. And then after that, you realize it's actually not that scary. It just means two people have just changed the same line. And if that ever happened, and it's complicated because it can happen, especially when people reformat the file, and they're not using the same, say, linter, then it looks like they've changed more lines than they have, and you get conflicts. Then you just, what do you call it? Just chat to the other person. We're talking about collaboration here, and again, this is important. Is just you can find out who did the other changes to the same file and the same lines, and you can just say, hey, look, I'm resolving these conflicts. I think we should pair on it because there's so many lines to be changed that have been changed. But if you keep your branch up to date as often as possible, then you're less likely to have conflict. And if you use tools like linters, where people's files are always formatted the same, and so therefore in their pull request, or in their commit, they're only making changes that they want to make, rather than they hit save and they're using different indentation and it looks like they've changed every line. Then it will reduce that. But just get started. It's scary at the beginning. It's scary for everyone. I was scared of Git. I was scared of Git conflicts. But you just need to do it. So if someone can create 10 conflicts this weekend, then they won't be scared of Git conflicts again.
Like, I really love this approach that if you create 10 conflicts this week, then you're not going to be afraid of another conflict. So I'm going to go ahead and create 100 conflicts today. So yeah, this is like a great explanation. But I have like a follow-up question with this one as well. So like you did mention how to learn Git and GitHub, like the Git client things, GitHub desktop. So are there, like, for people who are actually experienced with Git, this one was for beginners with Git, but now for the ones who are very experienced with Git, right? So for those people, they would probably want to use something like Git flows and strategies like that would allow them to make the project super fast for the tight deadlines. So how do you, which strategies would you suggest, which GitHub workflows would you suggest for people to use to streamline this process and make it faster?
That's a really good question. I think a lot of these strategies kind of scare people off, especially when you look at the diagrams. They're trying to show like all the different possibilities and examples that really scary. At the end of the day, these strategies all have one fundamental kind of thing, let's say, which is every change goes via a branch. And that's basically it. So if someone is happy to create branches, then that's it. And I think a biggest tip I can give to people is keep branches short-lived. I think that's really important. That means it's going to reduce conflicts. Keep them short-lived, keep them small as possible. Don't keep adding things to your pull request. Each branch or each pull request, they're almost kind of the same thing, needs to add value to the project. And as soon as it adds value to the project, let's get it merged, and then a new branch, a new pull request can be created with further changes. And then with these strategies, they have, like you said, Git flows are a very popular one, although it's becoming a bit less popular now because it keeps branches open for longer, and then that causes more conflicts and so forth. So people have done kind of like a hybrid model of that. Just when picking strategies, one thing to bear in mind is it doesn't add value until it's merged into main. So no matter how amazing someone's pull request is, no matter how amazing someone's change is, until it's merged into main and available to the user and deployed, it doesn't add any value. So I think keeping branches and pull requests as short and as small as possible and getting them as merged in as quick as possible is the most important thing. I think people try to sometimes overcomplicate it when it's not needed. I've worked on big projects like high street banks and all the rest, and to make them work more efficiently, we used the Git flow style, but we reduced it a lot. I made it a lot simpler because we needed those every change, every bug fix, every documentation improvement, every code feature, whatever it is, every automation, we need to get it into main as quick as possible. And the smaller it is, the less risk it is, and the quicker we can get it out to the users and so forth. So people shouldn't really overthink it, I think, and worry too much. I see Tamal's hand's gone up, so I'm really looking forward to hearing what he has to say as well.
Yeah, especially what Eddie said about the branches and stuff, it's absolutely accurate. And other than that, from my personal experience, organizing hackathons and participating in hackathons, I would say that make branches and do not ever touch whatever production branches you have. The reason is, like, for instance, in one of my previous hackathons, I had a team member of mine who did git push hyphen force, and whenever you force push, there are high chances, if you have not pulled in the changes, it is all going to be overwritten. So they did that, and as a result, we literally lost a page in our web app. We had a page, we lost that page because they actually forced push everything, and because the CI/CD was configured in such a way that it would be auto deployed, we lost that thing. So I had to again go to my local, find that thing, again repush it. So in case that if you don't have these kind of things, just make sure that even if you are using a lot of different branches, always pull in the changes that you have, and just basically never force push until you really have to. If you just don't pull in the changes, it's going to end up in a very bad way. And other than that, yeah, I mean, it's a race against time. So the way you commit your changes, the way you make your changes in these branches and get the pull request merge, it matters a lot. And if you ask about me, whenever I participate in a hackathon as a mentor or a judge, I always look for how they are working in the GitHub, how they are committing their changes and making their changes, because in a lot of hackathons these days, anti-plagiarism or anti-cheating policies also involve that they will go through your whole commit history, judging how you actually added those things. Like, there were cases where people literally added like 10 files at once, so that kind of changes might be sometimes fishy. So yeah, it's always better to be safe, and always better to do small kind of changes. But whenever you are making the branches, just be aware that yeah, there might be uncommitted changes or unpulled changes, so always pull those.
Yeah, it's very sad to hear that your changes got like removed. And I know what Eddie's gonna say it. That's why I'm gonna say it before Eddie's gonna say it. I never Eddie's gonna say that quotes. I never suggest people to force anything. That is like literally calling trouble. That is unquote exactly what Eddie wanted to say. So yeah, now go ahead, Eddie. That I've stolen already your words.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. Absolutely. If people aren't rewriting history and aren't using git reset and head tilde one and so forth and all those sorts of crazy commands, then a force isn't required. And I don't think like I said, I've only rewritten history like twice probably in over 10 years, and I force pushed on those occasions and caused problems. And I love Tamal's example. It's such a great example. So when you create a Git repo, first thing I would do is turn off force push. It's not allowed. I think that's really, really important. It creates more problems than it solves. I see force push almost like using sudo on the terminal. When people go, this command doesn't work, let me just try sudo, and it works, but then it breaks the next commands afterwards because now the permissions are all wrong and so forth. So yeah, I highly recommend not to do a force push. If you're doing a force push, then I think something before that has gone wrong. It shouldn't be required. It's something I never use. Yes, I really like that example, Tamal. Sorry to hear your work got lost. Glad you found it, but also it's a good example for people to learn from as well, I think. So I think that's great that you shared that. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your experience, and thanks for your tips, Eddie. Like, oh my god, there are so many questions from the audience. I had prepared like a list of things I want to ask Eddie, but now I'm just gonna go with the flow with the audience questions. So the first one we have here is actually not the first, but the fourth one we have here is hackathons often involve diverse teams with varying levels of Git proficiency. Do you have any? Okay, so this question is basically if me and Tamil are making a team. Tamil is super good at GitHub and Git. I do not know anything about Git. So how is Tamil supposed to teach me how to use Git in like a single hour or something, because you do not have that much time for a hackathon? Yeah, please go ahead, Eddie. This is like your space.
Thank you, Krish. I think people shouldn't worry about trying to learn everything in an hour. We learn as we go along. I think that's the most important thing. And then you can do a lot on GitHub already. And from my hackathon experience over the last 10 plus years of doing hackathons, the teams that have a mix of skills, levels, etc., are the teams that will win. I remember like the first, 4 years of doing hackathons, we always wanted to find the other coders and everyone who does the same language as us and all the rest. And all those hackathons are lost. Whereas, the 6 years after the first 4 years, realizing that diverse teams are really important, that's when we started to win almost every hackathon, because you need those different perspectives. You need somebody to think about the user. You need somebody to think about the presentation. You need somebody to think about, how you're going to deliver it. You need somebody to think about testing it. It's not just about the code. The code is such a small part of it. So yeah, it's really, really important to have a mixed team, like 100%. If people want to win and they want to learn and they want to grow and they want to do all that great stuff and the benefit of going to a hackathon, then they need a mixed team. Absolutely, different levels, different skill sets. The more mixed, the better. And and then to learn things as you go along, just learn as you go along, as you need it, as they want to do something. If they want to make a change to the project, they can use GitHub. And then, towards the end of the hackathon, if they want to get on the command line, they can, but they don't have to. They can just, they can still make changes. They can still raise pull requests. They can still do all that great stuff via the GitHub UI. As long as you use the same terminology with them, they can learn as they go along, and they can also teach you something as well. We can all learn from each other, no matter what level or our background is. And I think that's really, really important, because the person who might know Git and GitHub the most, they don't know other stuff, and they can learn other skills and other information from other people in the team. So yes, this is not a negative, this is a positive, and we should use a lot of these as a positive and to as a positive to the team.
Yeah, definitely. I have, like a famous quote from someone to say about this. So you might know this person who's, said this quote. So if there is someone who has, had experience in a particular thing for one day, that person can still help someone with day zero, at day zero. That's the quote. I'm sure Eddie knows whose quote this is.
I'm not sure whose it is, but it definitely sounds familiar.
This is yours.
Yes, exactly. So if someone's one day, 1 week, 1 month, they can help someone where they were a week ago or a month ago. And I think that's really, really important, because we learn so much by sharing what we know. I like, if I think I know something, I don't really know it until I've helped someone else with it, and that's when I know it so much more.
Okay, next question. What trends or innovations do you see in Git or related collaboration tools? Okay, so this question is about, what things that are, a part of GitHub or any related technologies help you to, collaborate or enhance your productivity in a hackathon more efficiently. I believe one point in this is going to be Copilot by a big, huge margin. But yes, I am going to let Eddie speak about all the other points because I do not know about them.
I actually wouldn't say Copilot is my first choice. I would say project boards and issues. Project boards is a great way for people to have a brainstorming with the team. I think that's really important, so everyone's pushing in the right direction. Again, people get too excited to just code, and then they all might code for a few hours, then come together, and they've all been coding in different directions, and it's not compatible and doesn't work, and the more changes have to be done. So I would say, get on a project board on GitHub, which is like a Kanban board with the different columns, to do, in progress, and done. They can then be converted to issues and assigned to people. So definitely assign things. I would also, make sure, like, kind of every hour you just have 2 minutes with the team. Just make sure you're all on the same page. Make sure the project board is up to date, and you can kind of see how you're doing, because a quarter of the way through or half the way through the hackathon, how are you doing? Are you on schedule? Do you need to pivot? Do you need to maybe mock out some things? Because time will go so fast, and time can't be wasted by people going in the wrong direction or having their head down for an entire day and realize they've been all going in the wrong direction. So project boards really, really help. And especially if everyone's remote, you can keep that board up to date. Everyone can drag their items along. They're from to do into progress, and when they're done, they can do it. I think that's really, really important. I would say that's number one. I would say raise issues as well, I think, is important. I do think that's really, really important. That can be tied to the project board. It just kind of organizes it more. CodePilot is pretty good. It's a great tool. I use it all the time, but it's not perfect. I don't think it's going to make us go 10 times faster. I think people rely too much on it, and if you rely too much on it, then you might seem like you're going faster at the beginning, but then you're going to end up going really, really slower. So it's just there to help us. So I would say, yeah, use it if you've got access to it. But no, that's not the biggest thing. I think getting organized as a team, using kind of best practices that we might use on a real bigger project, but just maybe cut down a bit. Don't make it so formal, but they still need something. I think that's important. And as Tamal mentioned, they do look at the your project, your GitHub repo, and they are looking to see how you collaborated. And is it just like 100 commits, or are there other issues, other pull requests? Have things been thought through? And don't forget, a lot of these hackathons are sponsored by companies, and these companies, why they do it from the goodness of their heart? No, they're looking to hire people in the future, and so you want to show that you collaborate well. So if you are reviewing someone's pull request, do write one sentence about it. I think it's important. It takes the extra 5 seconds longer, but just make sure it's friendly. And if you disagree with something, that's absolutely fine. Just make sure it is collaborative, it is friendly, it is inclusive. Nothing. Everyone has something they look out for on repos, but for me, if someone keeps saying hi guys or hey guys or something, just as small as that, I don't think that's very inclusive. So I would don't think that's such a collaborative way. They might be very collaborative and they might be great at what they do, but it's just that initial impression, right? If you're going to go buy a car and the car's got covered in mud, it might be a really shiny new car underneath, but your first impression doesn't look very good. So I would say, yeah, just show that you are collaborative. And sometimes we try and save 10 seconds, but in the end, we end up creating so much more work later on. I think we cut corners at hackathons, but we should make sure we shouldn't cut too much, that we're just left with the corners. So yeah, just make sure, and especially if it's remote, I think that's very, very important, because people can misinterpret things differently, and they can get a bit upset, and then you have to have a discussion to explain it's not what you meant, and so forth. So yeah, just take time in what you do, and look at it from someone else's perspective. Does it make sense? Does it have context? If someone just came to that part of the conversation, does it make sense? Or do they have to go search around for the rest of the conversation, and so forth?
Yeah, I agree with you for, the hiring part, definitely. That who doesn't love, like a job right out of a hackathon because you made your GitHub commit message look super good. And yeah, the hi guys thing, we are preventing it so bad. Like we start to show warnings to people. That is the level I believe that every project should go. If someone says, hey guys, or something like that, show them a warning. Right. If they do that again, ban them. Boom. Simple. That is how you keep a project inclusive, in my opinion. But yeah, I like mid space. I just want to do, like a community call out / shout out, as I like to say it. So first of all, shout out to Pradumna. They were the speaker of, our last space in this series. They talked about APIs and all of those, right? Shout out to Tamil. They are the next they are the next speaker in the series. This space is tomorrow, right? And shout out to the organizing team of HTM. Like, they are down there in the space. Some of them have also sent through their questions, right? So shout out to them. Shout out to the people who've been attending since the beginning. And shout out to everyone who has, just joined, because you are going to take something valuable with you at the end of the space. That is my goal with the space, yeah? So coming again to, one more shout out, and this one's not by me, right? This one's by the audience. So shout out to BioDrop. This is a shout out I received in the audience, in the comment section. So shout out to the link in bio that Eddie has right now. My account has it. Tamal's account has it. Everybody has it, right? So shout out to them as well. Yeah. Going ahead. Okay. Now we've got the, complicated questions, the technical ones. Wow. So, okay, this one is about Git rebase. What application does Git rebase have? I believe you covered it a bit in the beginning of the session. Like, just to recap it, it just, goes back in history, right? If I'm right, it goes back in history, and then you add something like you merge things Git rebase way.
Sure. There are three merging strategies in Git, but we're focused on rebase for now. Actually, you know what? I'll mention the other two first. So when you're in a branch and you're making your changes, you're moving the head or the head of your branch forwards, but also at the same time the default branch main could be moving forwards as well. And so these diverge. So you need to bring them together, and there are three strategies. One thing, definitely keep your branch up to date with main as often as possible. This will reduce conflicts, and there are three ways you can do this. So there is the traditional merge command or merge strategy, which brings in the commits from the other project, other branch into your branch as a new commit. And this is fine. I like this. I think this is good. People worry that it muddies the history. And then the other one you can do is squash, which is usually done the other way when you're merging in a pull request into the main branch. People usually squash it. So when they've got, let's say 10 commits to their pull requests, they usually squash it into main so they can rewrite the commit message, and it goes in as a single commit. So those 10 commits come squished into a single commit, and they can write, fix this bug or did this feature and so forth. And that's a common pattern people use. So it keeps the main pretty clean. But that's not the main goal. The other thing is you can then revert that feature, revert that bug fix if you need to. The other strategy of bringing main into your temporary branch is a rebase. And what that will do is it will remove all your commits, bring in the changes from the main branch, and replay your commits one by one over the top. So if you have a conflict, you know which of your commits has that. So you're more likely to get more conflicts, but they're going to be smaller. So if you did a standard Git merge strategy and bring everything over from main into your branch and say there are 3 files that conflicted, then you're going to get 3 files that conflicted. If you do as a rebase, you are going to possibly get those each independently, and then you can fix it and then move on to your next commit being applied to your branch. But please never do this if you're working in a branch with someone, because this is going to rewrite the Git history and you're going to have to force push it. So again, I don't do this unless there's an absolute specific reason to do it. Even if it's just me in that branch, that is not something that I do. I don't feel the need to. I feel that keeping branches short-lived, keeping it up to date by keep merging in the main into my branch, that's all I need, and then I squash it when it goes into the main branch. I think that's just easier for everyone, and it keeps things clean at the same time. I think people try and get fancy with their merging and branching strategies, and it causes a lot more work for everyone else, because if it works, it might work for you, but it might cause problems to 10 other people on the project. And that's something you definitely don't want, because then people are unlikely to continue wanting to collaborate on the project. So yes, if there's a specific need to it, then great. But people get too excited, I think, when they learn new commands and they keep using it, not realizing the knock-on effect to the project and the rest of the team.
Okay, that's like a great explanation of all 3 of them. So rebase is gonna rewrite history, squash is gonna merge history, and merge commit is literally gonna create more history to merge history. So that is, like a small recap of the entire thing. But I'm gonna make Eddie's task easy. Merging question number 7 and question number 9. Yes, I went through the hassle of giving them numbers, sorry. So how would a beginner find projects in open source? Yes, this is like a bit out of context, but I believe this is a good question for Eddie as the god of open source. So how as a beginner would you find projects for open source, Eddie?
That's a great question. It's something that many people struggle with. And I think at the beginning it is hard to find open source projects. I can give some tips on how to do that. But one thing I want people to bear in mind is when you're contributing to open source, whatever the project is, it gets easier to find projects. You'll have more projects that you want to contribute to than you have time. So I recommend everyone to get started, and then you'll have a different problem, which is you've got too many projects that you want to contribute to. So how to get started? You can search GitHub for good first issue labels. You can filter it by technologies. You can filter it by topics. You can filter it by when the project was last updated, all sorts of things. But to be honest, I don't think that's that good because you're going to get a lot of results and you're going to have to filter through them and do your due diligence. We'll always do your due diligence, make sure it's a friendly and collaborative project. But I would recommend joining a community, and I would join a community and see what projects that community has, and then just get chatting to the members, and then you will also then find out what projects they have got, other members have got, and then you won't be short of those projects. But when you do find a project, I would recommend just checking the closed pull requests, and then you'll see the ones that were merged and the ones that were closed. The ones that were merged have a purple icon, and the ones that were closed and not merged will have a red icon. I highly recommend checking those. Just check that they were closed in a friendly way, because there's nothing worse than contributing to a project that isn't friendly. It will put you off. You will lose your motivation. It happens to all of us. So I would just check that first. And then when you found a project, then I would say read the contributing guide and join their community on Discord or wherever it is, and just get chatting with people and get involved and start small, right? Fix that typo. That is adding value to a project. And then go through the documentation, see what improvements will be needed. And there are always improvements to be needed in documentation, because you'll have a different browser, different operating system, different version, whatever it is. And then you get to know the project, you get to know the people, the maintainers, the community, and then you can start fixing bugs, and then you can start maybe getting involved in features. So don't try and run before you can walk. I know we all try and do that, but I would say set yourself up for success, set yourself up to get your changes merged, and to get help when you need it. When people come in and they pick a giant feature and it's the first time on their project, people don't know who they are. They're not going to be able to offer as much help as maybe they need for that issue. So I'm saying pick up something smaller where you can ask really specific focused questions, and people on the project and the community can help you with that. And then later on, when you've been around for a short while, and you want to pick up something more and more challenging, then people are there to help you. They know who you are. They know you've helped other people, and they want to help you then as well. And then you can pick up bigger and bigger tasks and grow that way. So yes, finding a project is hard, but once you get started, you will find a lot more. And don't jump around between too many projects. I think people kind of do good first issues on every project, and then they don't learn enough about the projects. They don't learn enough about the technology. So I would recommend start with that, but then and stick around on the project for a short while. Obviously, if you want to change technologies, or you outgrow the project, or whatever reason you want to change, do change. I'm not saying you have to stay on the same project forever, but just don't change kind of every week, because then you won't invest enough time in getting to know the project and the maintainers.
Wow, super cool explanation. I think I used, all the same things when I started contributing as well. And it really worked out for me. So I do, suggest everyone to, just copy these steps. In maybe there will be a day when, you're going to be on the space and talking about all these tips you received from Eddie. It is a possibility, right? So no, Eddie, I'm not, stealing away your audience and giving it to other people, but yeah. So yes, amazing explanation, Eddie. We have, some appreciation messages for you in the replies. I have pinned one of them, right? So people are appreciating you, which is one of the best things about open source and building in public. And Aniket has shared one of the blogs about mastering Git. So if anybody is interested in mastering Git, definitely go ahead and check out the blog. Plus, okay, this one is something that I want to use to troll Eddie in the future, but I'm not going to do that, and I'm going to speak it out. Okay, I'm not going to troll Eddie, like at least until October end, because that's what I told Eddie. So there is this URL called guthib.com, right? And if you go there, right, it's obviously a type of GitHub. And if you go there, it literally says you spelled it wrong. So this is for all the typo freaks who make typos here and there just to be funny. Just look at what companies have to do to prevent you at this point of time. So yeah, that's super cool as well. Other than that, I do not think that we have any more questions. Okay, we do have one. We do have one. How to balance between experimenting with new ideas and taking risks. So this is like a very this is a question about how to structure your project itself. So it's about whether you know how to balance about taking risks and implementing new ideas. So what are your thoughts on this, Eddie and Tamil?
Can you repeat the question? Like, uh, I think it's my internet connection.
Okay, so it's how to balance between taking implementing new ideas and taking risk, because if you implement new ideas, then it is definitely a big risk. But if you do not take risk, then you are not implementing any new ideas. So how do you balance this? I think Eddie has opinions on this. Please go ahead, Eddie.
Yeah, I think it's important to find a balance with everything, but I always try and do the 80-20 rule on everything. I always try and do 20% kind of experiment, risk, creativity, whatever you want to call it, because you never know what's going to kind of do well. I do the same on my open source projects. I do the same on my tweets. I do the same on my YouTube channel. I think it's really, really important to make sure, like we're in tech, things are changing all the time, and we need to kind of push the envelope. And I would say 20% of the time, you need to be doing that. Even if you're taking on a new task on open source, pick one that's 20% outside your comfort zone. So you challenge yourself. But just remember, when you ask questions, it shouldn't be, how do I get started? Because that's probably like 90% outside your comfort zone. But it should be, I've done this, I'm stuck on this, trying to do this, how do I do it? And then therefore you're going to get better questions, you're going to learn more because you're going to get good answers, and then people can guide you and then you know for next time. So I would say definitely, yes, 20%, always experiment with 20%. I think that's a good balance to have.
Okay, that's 80-20 rule. I this is my first time hearing about it as well somehow. That somebody is using 80-20 rule in software development as well. So I honestly find it super cool, the 80-20 rule thing. How about you, Tamil? What do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, experimenting and taking risks is a huge thing, and obviously it has different kind of advantages and also disadvantages. But also, I would like to share my opinion about this from a hackathon standpoint. See, like, whenever someone is developing any kind of hackathon project, there's a race against time. There's always you wondering that, hey, what's the next piece person on the next table building? Maybe they're building something cool. So I would suggest one thing: whenever you are building any hackathon or any open source project, don't even if you are choosing a base tech stack, don't always go for the same tech stack that you know that it's popular. Because, like, for example, what's happening is I was conducting a hackathon known as Hack for Bengal. So inside of that, we saw a lot of projects which were made out of the same MERN stack. So at this point, it has become a meme that the tech stack is always going to be MERN stack for any kind of web development project. So whenever you are building these projects, look out for the sponsors, look out for all the things that are there, like all the companies that are doing those kind of things. Always try and experiment, take your risks. Just put one person that, hey, you or guys build this kind of feature. I will take out some time and I will try to implement this cool new feature by this XYZ company, and let's see if I can implement this feature. So in that way, you are doing two things. One, you are doing something unique and interesting, and the second thing you are doing is you are also grabbing that company's attention that, hey, your tool is amazing, I have built with this tool, maybe we can have a chat, you can actually talk about how to improve our stuff. So that way, I think it also gonna work. And about the risk part and the 80-20 principle, obviously, it's super important that you take those kind of risks and blend in with some creativity and stuff. Because if it's the same thing again and again, people are gonna be like, oh, I have seen this same thing there. So why should I bother about this open source project, or why should I bother about this hackathon project, right? So yeah, that's my opinion.
Yeah, thanks for the wonderful opinion, Damil. I really, this is new about me hearing someone getting, sponsorships via this, but it's a cool, thing for people who are looking to get sponsorships for your projects. And no, I believe MERN is now underused because Next.js is basically the new MERN. So nobody uses MERN. They end up using Next.js. Boom. Simple. There's this one thing that Twitter is bugging me. It says me one request when I am not in the full space mode, but it shows me zero requests when I'm in the space mode. So if you're requesting, then it's Elon Musk, right? Contact that person. That person is not allowing you to get your chance at asking your question to the god of open source and Tamil as well, right? But for the people who are able to request for the mic, if you do want to ask questions, you're very welcome to. We do have one question from the chat as well. Eddie, do you have time for this one?
Last one, then I have to go.
Okay, definitely. Thank you. Um, what technology to learn to get started to contributing to open source? I think this is now Eddie's favorite question.
I would say none. Don't worry about technology. You don't need the technology to contribute. The technology is the smallest part of the project. So I would say don't worry about it. You'll learn what you need to learn as you go along. You can add value without knowing the technology. And actually, you bring, and I said this before to other people, so some of you might have heard this. You can bring value to the project by not knowing the technology, by not knowing uh, much about it, by not knowing about the project. You can really add value because you've got that fresh perspective that other people don't have. So you can ask really good questions. You can say this doesn't make sense, and then they can improve the project for the next person. I love saying to people when they say to me, "Can you tell me about your project and help me get started?" And I say, "No. Can you look at the README file? Can you tell me what the project does? Can you tell me how to get started? And if you can't, there's nothing wrong with you. There's something wrong with our project, but with your help, we can improve it." And that's how they can get contributing to the project and how they can improve it for the next person. I think someone said to me the other day, "Oh, Eddie, I really like your documentation on the BioDrop project. It's one of the best I've ever seen out there." I'm like, "Great," but if you look at it, it's been contributed to by like 2,000 people. It wasn't me who did it. I probably started the file, but I definitely didn't finish it. I definitely couldn't have done that alone. And just by doing those little improvements by different people, it's become better and better. So yes, it's a great way to get started with open source. So don't worry about the technology. Don't worry about trying to understand the whole project. Don't worry about any of that. I think people use those to kind of delay themselves getting involved because maybe they are a bit nervous and it is scary. But hopefully you can find a friendly project, ask a friend. Hopefully you can find a project that is good to get started on, and then you get used to the workflow, used to the terminology, because even the terminology is scary as well. So many forks and pull requests and merges and different types of merges and all these sorts of things. But you'll learn, the best way to learn is to get started. And most projects are super friendly, but you can always ask a friend and find even more friendly projects if that's something that's important to you.
Thanks for answering this question. This is like, like always response. I have this, remembered in my brain at this point of time. People ask it so much. But yeah, if you are not able to, find the project even after this, just search on GitHub and then go through, the PRs of that project. If you find that the way the maintainers are handling the PRs is inclusive and it's your way, then go ahead, contribute to that wonderful project, and you can enter your tech stack in that as well. But yeah, ending this race. Thank you, Eddie, for showing up and answering all of these questions. I kept account. There were like 25 questions, so that is 5 squared, right? So thanks for that. Thank you, Tamil, for coming up here, and thank you everyone for showing up to the space. I hope to host many such events as well later, and good luck for BioDrop, Eddie, by the way. And I'm awaiting like the new UI because I made a new UI myself as well, right? So I want to look at that one and take some inspiration, by which I definitely do not mean stealing, and then fill in the parts that are left in my version of the Figma UI. But yeah, bye. Thanks for coming.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for geeking out with us today, and enjoy Hack the Mountain, and let us know how it goes. We'll be following on Twitter.
Yeah, thank you, Eddie.